My name is Mao Thao, and I've been working in the Hmong community, especially in the health field, for the last 46 years. Most of the work I do is health promotion, education, and I founded the Hmong Healthcare Professionals Coalition, as well as doing other health-related, work in the Hmong community since 1997, and then before that too. Yes. How I define healthy aging in the Hmong community, I think about a state of being. It's when somebody feels good about his or herself, living a healthy life in the Hmong community. That means, are you with families? Are you happy where you live, in your home, in your community? And are you engaging with those you loved and your surrounding? And I think that would be something that the elderly would, when I talk about elderly, I'm referring to people who are 55 and older. So that's when I think elderly, often when you ask them about, healthy, being healthy, aging, that's what, most people would say. It's different for each person. And so for many, they would look at, am I happy? Am I sick? Am I having high blood pressure, for example? So it involves the mind, the body, and the soul or the spirit. And so people often will say, okay, if I have diabetes, that's my body. And so what's wrong with my body? Is it, because I'm not eating properly? Am I, sad? And, because I can't sleep or I can't eat. So oftentimes people will look at, the kind of symptoms they have or the kind of health problem they have. And so for the mind, it's, they think about, okay, am I sad? Am I happy? Can I sleep at night? And if I can't sleep, what's, causing my problem? Is it because or I'm worried about other things? And then for spirit, it's oftentimes people will refer to as, how's my faith? Do I go to church? Do I belong to a church? Do I, miss or fail to perform certain ritual and to keep, my family, myself at peace? And so those are, things that, I think the mainstream culture may not, see that as something that contribute to health problem in elderly. But I think for the Hmong community, people often think about, those three when you talk about, what contribute, it's beyond physical, pathological, but, it involves all the other realm. And so I think, that's what most people will tell me. For 55 and older, well, it's different. Again, depending on how many years the person has been in the U.S. or how he or she was raised in the family, it's difficult, and especially in America, it changes. The expectations, belief, all of that changes over time, especially when we live in America, because when we were in Laos, girls, for example, didn't have to, necessarily have to go to school. But that changed over time, and it has created a lot of stress or issues for elderly, for, people who are older, because they now have to babysit, they now have to care for younger generations, for example. And in the old days, we believed that, girls don't have to go to school and they don't have to work outside of the home. But now, both men and women have to go to school, and they have to work outside of the home, especially women in this country. And so that creates, again, issues in between generations. Elderly cannot oftentimes count on younger generations to help in the home. And we still believe that, both young men and girls really have to, get educated and have a successful career in this country. And but that in itself, creates a lot of tension between generations, because people, young people are very busy in this country, chasing after career, chasing after their education. Yet the elder expect them to fulfill, not only, do they need to be highly educated and having a successful career, they have to continue with, practicing or meeting the obligations of society and family. So that means that they have to care for their elders, for example, and they have to take in their in-laws or their own parents if the parents are old and cannot care for themselves. So these are just some of the examples. I think important component, a socially component in the Hmong community, especially for elderly, I think it's very crucial. We know that most of the ritual, most of traditions surrounding Hmong involves, community, involves families, involve not just your immediate family, but extended family. So it has been difficult the last 2 years because of COVID. Creates a lot of a depression or problem in our community because elderly, most of them could not perform certain ceremonies because we had to social distance, for example, and they lost connection, with the friends, with the people. Elder could not attend an elderly program, for example, and that creates a lot of tension, isolation among elders. That's because oftentimes that's their way of engaging and being with other elders. That's how they get news. That's how they keep up with the latest. I mean, young people may read from internet or get the news, but how elder gets the news is often talking to each other. So if we don't have that socially, if people are isolated, it's very difficult to do that. Oftentimes people don't function well with, by themselves or with themselves. We have to have connection to the larger extended families and community members and leaders. So same thing with women, they do bandao and they do teaching young children how to sew, how to cook, how to clean, how to care for younger, siblings. So when with the COVID, with the pandemic, many families, have to isolate themselves. And, in this country, it's hard when elderly can't drive. They have to count on, somebody to pick them up or count on younger, generations to take them places, shopping, all of that. It has been difficult for them. I worked on COVID, and so the vulnerability with elder due to COVID, it has been challenging. I mean, there are many times people cry, I cry. I witness a lot of people, especially elderly, they are very afraid because most of them don't speak English. And so as we know, COVID, it changes, drastically, so fast, speed of light or maybe, and so, we can't, when you don't speak English, you don't understand the disease process or what's involved, what people have to do. Many of our elders suffer. Many die. Many, got sick from, not understanding the guideline or not getting the resources, the help that they needed. And oftentimes, many became, social workers. Many became teachers during COVID time, and it add a lot of stress for elderly because they now, have children and grandchildren in the home, and having to teach children at home, having to help care for the children. Other than they don't go to school, so the elders are at home and they have to care. That creates a lot of stress. Other things are, for example, younger generations, they go out, they like to go out, and so oftentimes they will bring they are contracted with COVID, and then the elders are very, very afraid of that, and so it creates tension between generations, between family members. people are reluctant to use masks or getting vaccine, for example. At early years, there weren't enough vaccine. And so having to reach out to elders and help them understand what the pandemic is about and precautions and what they need to do, it has been a challenge. Our community didn't have structure. We didn't have plan to tackle pandemic, and we're not alone. I don't think it's unique to us, but that it itself creates a lot of a problem. People die, family members die, and Hmong culture, especially when you are old, we visit one another, and so during COVID, we didn't get to do that. We didn't get to visit, to pay our respect to family members or relatives during COVID time, and this creates a lot of sadness in our community, and so I think we will be facing a lot of issues after. Well, I don't know if this is going to be after COVID, but it's something that we have never experienced before. I think elderly they need to know that they're important to us. We can't live or learn the culture by not having elders, and so they need to know that we need to let them know that they are important. Our elderlies are important to us because they represent the past history, and they represent the future, and so we need to create opportunities, programs, safe place for them to share their challenges, to share their struggles, so that we can help elders face their challenges, their problem, and create a healthier life, hopefully, for a meaningful life for our elders. I think it's important to call, for younger generations, children, to call their parents, on a regular basis, asking if the elderlies are doing well or not, if they need medication, they need food. And I know many during the COVID time, we encourage younger people to buy food, for example, right? Go to the store, buy extra rice, bags of rice, food, because many of the elder live through refugee and their children of war. So we understand what's important to have, during war or during pandemic. You have to have food, and so I think the younger generation need to be more understanding, more patient, more supporting of elders, because they live through like war and refugee camps. So they're, to me, they're survivors, and so we can learn so much from the elders. But I think to be open-minded, remember that it's life in this country. If you don't speak the language, it's very difficult. We need to help translate and interpret for our elderly population. We need to have programs that will go out to the community rather than having them come to us. For example, coming to the county, coming to the city for help. We need to go out to the community and distribute some of those, share some of those programs with our elderly population.